The rumble of Harley engines echoed down the narrow street, a sound that made most people step aside in fear or curiosity. But amidst the noise, a small figure stood frozen, a little girl, no more than 6 years old, her pink shirt smeared with dirt and what looked like dried tears on her cheeks. She clutched something tightly in her tiny fist as she looked up at the man kneeling before her, a biker clad in black leather, his arms covered in tattoos, his face rough and tired from years of hard living. He was the kind of man most people crossed the street to avoid, but that day, he was about to meet someone who would change his life forever. Before we go on, if you believe in kindness, redemption, and the power of small miracles, make sure to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe for more stories that touch the soul. It was a gray afternoon when Mason Rogue Carter, a longtime member of the Hells Angels, decided to take a walk through the quieter side of the city. He'd just left the club's garage after fixing up an old bike, trying to keep his hands busy so his mind wouldn't wander to darker places. The brother he'd lost in a fight, the years he'd wasted chasing chaos, the family that wanted nothing to do with him. Life had been a long road of regrets, and lately, Mason had started to wonder if it was too late to find a turn-off toward something better. That's when he saw her, a little girl standing outside a bakery, looking lost, clutching a crumpled $5 bill in her hand. Her hair was tangled, one pigtail undone, and there was a faint red mark on her cheek like she'd fallen or been pushed. Mason slowed down instinctively, cautious, scanning the street for her parents, but there was no one, just a few passers-by who gave her a quick glance and kept walking. He didn't want to get involved. Not him, not a man like Mason, but something in her eyes, that mix of fear and determination, made his boots stop moving. Approached slowly, kneeling down so he wouldn't tower over her, the little girl looked at him with a seriousness that didn't belong on a child's face. Then she held out her $5 bill and said, "Mister, can you help me for a moment?" He didn't know what to say. He expected her to ask for candy or maybe help finding her mom, but then she added softly, "My daddy is hurt, please." Mason's throat tightened. He followed her small hand's gesture toward the alley beside the bakery. There, lying on the cold ground, was a man, bruised, unconscious, and clearly in bad shape. Mason ran to check his pulse. He was alive, but barely. Few people passed by, glanced, and kept walking. The world had grown cold like that. No one wanted to get involved, but Mason wasn't about to be one of them. He lifted the man into his arms and carried him inside the nearby diner, shouting for someone to call an ambulance. The waitress hesitated when she saw the tattoos, but one look at the little girl clinging to Mason's leg changed her mind. They cleared a booth and laid the man down, waiting for help to arrive. The girl stayed beside him, holding his hand, whispering softly, "It's okay, Daddy. I found someone to help." When the ambulance arrived, Mason stepped back. He wasn't family, and he knew how people looked at him, like he was trouble waiting to happen. But before they left, the little girl ran back and tugged on his leather vest. "You didn't take it," she said, holding out the crumpled bill again. "You helped me. You're supposed to take it." Mason knelt, tears stinging his eyes. "Keep it, kid," he muttered. "You're gonna need it more than me." But she shook her head stubbornly. "No, you help. That's what money's for." She pressed the bill into his palm and ran back to the paramedics. Mason stood there for a long moment, staring at that $5 bill like it weighed 100 pounds. The next day, he went to the hospital to check on the man. He wasn't sure why. Maybe guilt, maybe curiosity. He found out that the man's name was Daniel Parker, a single father who'd been laid off months ago, struggling to make ends meet. The fall he'd taken wasn't from a fight. It was from exhaustion and hunger. The little girl, Emma, had been trying to find help all morning. She'd been saving that $5 to buy bread for dinner. When Mason walked into the hospital room, Emma's face lit up. "You came back," she said. Her father smiled weakly and reached out his hand. "Thank you, man. I don't remember much, but my daughter told me everything." That day changed something deep inside Mason. He visited them again, then again, bringing small things, food, some groceries, and one day, a tiny pink helmet. He fixed up an old bike and took Emma for rides around the block, always at a crawl. Her laughter echoing through the streets. People stared, the tattooed biker and the little girl with the biggest smile. But neither of them cared. Weeks turned into months, and Mason started helping at a local shelter, fixing bikes for kids who couldn't afford them. He found peace in something he'd never known before, purpose, and it all started with a little girl who believed a $5 bill could buy help from a stranger. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in shades of gold, Mason stood by his bike and watched Emma chase Bubbles in the park. Her father, now recovered and working again, joined him. "You know," Daniel said quietly, "she still talks about that $5 deal, says it was the best money she ever spent." Mason smiled, pulling the worn bill from his wallet. He'd kept it all this time, pressed flat like a memory he didn't want to lose. "Nah," he said, his voice low. It wasn't the money, it was her heart. He folded the bill carefully and placed it back in his wallet, right next to an old photo of his brother. A reminder that even the hardest hearts can find redemption in the most unexpected ways. That day, Mason finally realized something. The world wasn't just full of broken people. It was full of people trying to help each other piece themselves back together. Sometimes it only took $5 and a little bit of courage. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who still believes in kindness, and subscribe for more real stories that remind us what it means to be human. Before you go, tell us in the comments, what's one small act of kindness that changed your life or someone else's? Because sometimes even the smallest act can make the biggest difference.